Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents with me, your host, Valerie, and sometime kitty co-hosts Miss Purrington and Mookie. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about all Austin comedy. In addition to podcasts, Comedy Wham brings you articles, album reviews, our advice column, all of my Austin Chronicle articles about the Austin comedy scene, and check out our listing of festivals from across the country and the world and our FPIA contest page. Our most popular feature is our events page for live comedy shows in Austin, Houston, and DFW, where 100% of the entries you see come from comics and producers. Click the Submit a Show button from the top of the homepage or events page to fill out the survey to get your show listed. It's free and easy. Tag us on your Instagram stories and we'll share with our followers. And we also offered paid promo boosts on Instagram. Want to support these resources we provide? Well, you can donate to Comedy Wham on PayPal, Venmo, or even Patreon. Click the Support CW icon on our homepage to see the ways that you can help us. Our podcast was launched in 2016 to bring you funny people and their stories. As a fan, I like to delve into a comic's background and motivations, and will usually take a detour along the way. Consider the interview a way for you to get to know the folks that make the comedy scene as fascinating off stage as it is on stage. And if you like this podcast, please rate and review us. Today, we are talking to the winner of the 2016 Snap Judgment Comedic Performance of the Year. I already said winner, so I don't have to say it again. She's appeared in Hacks, The Righteous Gemstones, The Mandalorian, Dead to Me, Diary of a Future President, and American Horror Story. Her sophomore comedy special, No Flies on Me, is out now on 800 Pound Gorilla, and it is fantastic. I had a chance to listen to it or watch it this weekend. Her One Hick Wonder Tour kicks off this fall. She's currently headlining in Cirque du Soleil's, oh boy, Mad Apple in Vegas. She is the host of the Bitchin' Over Biscuits podcast, and now Comedy Wham presents our guest, Jen Kober.
Hello.
Hi.
That's a great intro.
Well, you've got a lot of credits.
Well, I like to tell people I'm in one episode of every TV show you're not watching.
Hey, I watched Dead to Me, and my son loves The Mandalorian, so
Oh, that was the greatest show to work on. It was I'm not even a Star Wars person, and that
Yeah.
was so flipping cool. Oh my God.
Oh, I bet. And I mean, these shows that you have been on, they're like, household names. People may not necessarily watch them, but Hacks is on fire right now.
Yeah.
And I just watched the Gene Smart Saturday Night Live hosting.
Don't tell me about it. I'm watching it
Oh,
today. I haven't seen it yet. No
I'm
spoilers.
I'm
No
a,
spoilers.
I'm a host, and of course, Righteous Gemstones. It's all American Horror Story. These are all, great. And I have an icebreaker question. We'll get to it in just a moment. But I watched your special, and I watched the Snap Judgment performance, and obviously you're hilarious. But the
Thank you.
two I watched The Mandalorian reel, and I watched The Dead to Me, and I love that show. I didn't remember that you were the rabbi.
Yes.
But these are dramatic roles that you've taken on. Are all of the roles that you've taken on dramatic roles?
Well, I mean, I got to be funny in Righteous Gemstones. I got to be funny in Hacks,
Okay.
sort of.
Okay.
I do book a lot of drama. I was on The Purge as well, and literally when they were casting me, I was like, "Do I die in this episode? Because if I do, I don't want this part. I don't want to die. Like I'm so scared to actually watch that show
Uh-huh.
that So I don't know how, but I actually do get a lot of dramatic roles. But I went to an acting conservatory. Like being an actor was my
Mm,
first choice, and then quickly realized, oh, I'm super funny and I can write my own stuff. I should also do stand up. And I
okay.
started doing stand up when I was probably 16 years old. So it's been a long time.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get to my icebreaker question, because then that's going to introduce that whole experience and your journey. So okay, so my official icebreaker question, Jen, is one word to describe your past.
Oh God, one word to describe my past. Adventurous.
Adventurous.
It's certainly been an adventure.
How would you say that word describes your childhood?
I mean, my childhood was very, easy. I didn't have, nothing terrible or terribly complicated
Yeah.
happened to me as a kid. It was really just like me in dark spaces eating food my mother didn't want me to have. So it was, a lot of sneaking cheese out of the fridge, a lot of finding all of the Girl Scout cookies and eating them by myself. Like there was I my mom was because I was always a fat kid.
Mm.
My mom was very conscious about what I was putting in my mouth, and so I became a little hoarder of food. I mean, even to this day, I like to get sweets and go eat them in the closet so my wife doesn't see. Like there's that has stayed with me. So I have a video series literally called "In the Closet" with Jen Kober, where I'm literally eating all sugar, cupcakes, Whoppers, just things that are terrible for you. But I eat them in the closet so my wife doesn't know. And she's not on social media, thank God, so she doesn't ever see it. But that's been like the theme throughout my life is just
Yeah.
trying to eat in peace and have no one, you know, judge me for it. So,
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have a very strong sweet tooth. I'm a sweet tooth
oh,
kind of
yes.
person. And yeah,
My
it's
wife is a baker. So it's
oh,
not like I've
oh,
even gotten away from it. There is
yeah.
constantly the refrigerator has like all these little jars. I'm like, what are in these jars? She's like, oh, that's different flavors of icing. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. What are you talking about? Of course I'm gonna touch it. You need to make a little jar just for me, or your big jar that you want to use for your work is gonna get touched.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Um, Jen, you mentioned that you went to an acting conservatory school. Was that in like middle school, high school, or was that after
It was
graduation?
it was college, yeah. So I
Okay.
went to a BFA program. I went to the theater school at DePaul
Okay.
in Chicago. I
Oh.
did not graduate from there. I left after the third year, uh, piddled around Chicago for about a year, doing lots of fun drugs and playing, spending my parents' money. And then I finally was like, okay, I'm going to go back and get my degree. And so I finished up at a local little college in my hometown of Lake Charles, Louisiana. So I got my degree from McNeese State University, which we used to call Kmart Community College when
Okay.
I, when I lived in Lake Charles. It's a very small university. It's not known for anything other than being a barely accredited university. But I learned a lot there. I got to do a lot there. I was very lucky that I was in a program there that was so supportive of me. I did a one woman show that the university produced and paid for and built all the sets for and all that. And I got to travel with that while I was in school.
Oh,
So, I was sort of building a reputation as a touring artist. I was getting to play venues, that I wouldn't otherwise have gotten to play. And it was really, really great. Really great.
so you said you started comedy at 16. You were still in high school at the time.
Yes. Yes.
So what
It,
does
it was
that
in,
look
so
like?
I was in Louisiana and, I lived in Lake Charles, but I competed in speech in high school. So, yeah, so I was a national champion. And so I had a lot of friends everywhere from having done that activity. And so two of my very, very good friends went to a high school in New Orleans. So I would drive to New Orleans all the time on weekends when we didn't have speech tournaments and go hang out with them. And so when I was 16, we had all gone to a bar because that's what you do in New Orleans when you're 16. It was Nick Castro Giovanni's Big Train Bar. I don't even think it's there anymore, but they were having a comedy open mic night in the back room. And we had gone back there to drink. We didn't want to be in the front where everybody could see us. So we were in that little back room drinking. And my friends signed me up for the open mic without telling me. And so, we're back there cutting up, and then they announced my name, and I was like, what? And then they were like, go, go, go. We signed you up. And I was like, I don't have anything to do. I don't have a stand-up act. What are you guys doing? And my friend screams from the back, tell the story about your parents. And so I told this story that I had literally just told them the day before about being able to hear my parents have sex through the air conditioning vents in our house. And it was just this funny, hilarious story of what my parents were saying to each other, and how awkward it was for me and such. And it got big laughs. And once I got big laughs with something I said, I was hooked, right? Because in speech, when you compete in speech, you're doing someone else's words, right? And you're saying you've memorized a piece that someone else wrote. You couldn't do things that were your own. So in the beginning of my comedy career, I was kind of a cover comedian. I was literally doing Thea Vidal's jokes. Do you know who Thea Vidal is? She's like
No.
a 400 pound black woman. And I was like literally up there talking about being a black woman and having all these children. And I never forget this. The host of the show came up to me afterwards and he goes, you're very funny and you've got fantastic timing, but you have to write your own jokes. And I was like, what? We can write our own jokes? And he was like, yeah, that's what the art form is. And I was like, oh, I didn't get it because I had done speech for so long. So once I realized I could make this my own and say whatever I wanted to say, whatever I thought was funny, I was hooked. I wanted to do stand up at any and all costs. And when I got into the theater conservatory in Chicago, I was going to the open mics at the Funny Firm, and I was going to the open mics at all of the bars and stuff that were around the college where I was. And so I just kept working that muscle, even though the college did not like that I was being a stand-up comedian. They thought that was, like derailing their teachings
Oh.
of classically trained acting. And I was like, I really don't care, which is why I ended up leaving. They just did not, I had a conversation with one of the professors where he told me that if I continued stand up, I could not continue my acting career there, that it was teaching me all these bad habits. And I was like, yeah, you can go suck a whole bag of dicks. And I left.
There's no
and
precedent of successful stand-ups having great acting careers. That never happens, right?
well, exactly. And it was so ridiculous. Instead of like leaning into what I was good at and helping me, develop those skills and realizing that, oh my God, perhaps I'm not like everyone else at this school, perhaps,
Yeah.
and then there were other kids that were the same way. It's not like I was some, special prodigy or something. To me, they were churning out they wanted a cookie cutter, sort of actor. And that's not what I was. That's never what I was. I was one of the only heavy kids in school, right? It was all a bunch of little skinny girl ingenues and very good looking strapping men, and me, who's just like a little potato with legs. And so it was difficult for me there, and I did not really, I loved the people I was in school with, but I did not like the school, and I was not happy in that program. And it showed in my work. It showed in my, you know, how I was at that age. And when I got out and started doing my own thing and started, getting to, so once I started learning improvisation and, all of the things that you learn as a comedian to do, I was just so much happier, and I learned a lot while I was there, but I feel like I didn't learn it until I left there, and then I went, oh, they did teach me things. I did, that sort of idea of you learn to skate in the summer and swim in the winter, right? Like your brain, when you're away from it, starts to process it, and kind of, I got more of it once I left.
Yeah.
But while I was there, I was kind of a miserable
Hmm.
little ball of like, well, what is this? I didn't like like we would go to acting class and I was like, I don't like going to acting class and I'm here to be an actor. What's going on, you know? And it was because we were doing Shakespeare and learning technique and, you know, laying on the floor and trying to fry like bacon. And I was like, this is not, what is this? I did, you know, I didn't have that sort of a background with theater. I didn't realize that so much of it was so very personal and intimate and oddly not linear. I don't unlinear. I don't know what the word is there, but everything was very, you know, physical, and I wasn't used to that, and I didn't get it until I left, and I was like, oh, this is what they were trying to show me, you know. So I completely appreciate all that I learned there, but at the time, I did not get it.
Yeah, yeah. How was it doing stand up in Chicago when, I'm just basing this on a lot of the material in No Flies on Me and the Snap Judgment performance, that a lot of it is your family, this I don't know, this Louisiana background, and then to take
Well,
that to a
that's
city
what I
like
that's what I
Chicago.
did. I talked about I am a hick in this big metropolis. Like
Uh-huh.
you know what I mean? There's a train that goes through this city. Are you kidding me? I've never seen such a thing. What do you know? And homeless people, I had never had any interaction with that. You know what I mean? Like that was a whole new thing. This locking your door when you leave the house. What? We didn't do that where I'm from, you know. So there was a lot of it was my whole comedy act was this sort of fish out of water
Mhm.
experience that I was having. And, you know, I have when I'm on stage, I have a very strong Southern accent. I have learned in theater school, I did learn to, you know, more get a more neutral sort of speaking voice, but I certainly turn on my Southern accent when I'm on stage. And you know, it helped. I think when people hear that accent, they immediately I talk slow on stage.
Mhm.
I sort of let the audience put things together before I even get there. There's a lot of silence and me sort of reacting with my face in my act, and so you know I was lucky that those things got developed in an acting program that
Mhm.
you know so I was able to bring all of that to my stand up even at that young age.
Yeah. Did you have a sense for what you could do as a stand-up when you were kind of getting really deep into it in Chicago and then coming back home?
I mean, I was so scraping the surface. I had no referent for what I was doing in stand up other than watching other stand ups, right? I don't know if at that time there was so much stand up on TV. There was all that A&E's evening at the Improv and all of the you know stand up was really in its kind of heyday
Yeah.
as that was happening in the early to mid 90s. And it was I was working with people who were just great. I mean, they were really good at what they did. They were at the top of their game. And to watch them and to be in rooms with them and to have them come up to me and give me advice or say things to me or like, hey, why don't you say this instead? And it'll get a
Mhm.
bigger, oh, you know what I mean? Like, so, and I even, I don't think until I was probably about 5 years into doing stand up did I realize that I had to be writing every day, that
Ah,
every single thing that was happening to me, that every single thing I was going through, every thought I was having needed to be written down so that I could, or recorded, or however I would remember it, but that everything was material. I kept looking for jokes, and that's
ah,
not what it is. But I didn't get that because I was working with scripts as an actor. And so there's no script when you're a comedian. You are the script. You are writing everything that you're saying. And so I kept looking outside of me for the material when the material was me. And so it took me a while to figure that out. But once
yeah.
I did, we were cooking with gas and off to the races. So
Okay, so you come back home, and then how long after getting your degree do you stay in Lake Charles or New Orleans?
I got a job at the Comedy Warehouse Warehouse, which was a comedy club in downtown Disney in Orlando, Florida. They
Oh,
used to
wow.
have they used to have what was downtown Disney. So it was like the Disney for adults. It was the after hour, the nighttime sort of. There was a dance club, there was a country dance club, there was the Adventurers Club, which was like interactive improv with characters. And then there was the Comedy Warehouse where we did whose line is it anyway kind of style improv.
Uh-huh.
So the audience would yell out suggestions and we would make up a 30-minute show. And we did that. We did 5 shows a night, 5 nights a week.
Whoa.
So yeah, so you got good real fast. So comedy is a muscle, and to get to work it out that much
Hmm.
was incredibly helpful to me. I mean, there is nothing you can say to me now that I wouldn't have a joke for or wouldn't be able to come back from. Like literally everything that could ever happen to me happened to me there. Right? Like all of the things, good, bad, ugly, amazing, fantastic, they all happened because you're dealing with people. We would say, okay, we're going to open it up. What do you guys want to, somebody tell me the last item you bought at a garage sale. Somebody tell me a line that you said today that was super fun. Like whatever it was, we're getting suggestions from the audience. So because you don't know what they're going to say, you had to stay really open and you had to stay really grounded. And we had a whole bunch of funny wigs and stuff, backstage costumes. And so somebody would make a suggestion and we would just come out and start a scene. And it was also very musical, that show. So like the opening thing we would do, there were telephones in the audience. And from the stage, we would call one of the phones and that person would pick up and we would talk to them, ask them about their life, where they're from, who they are, what they do for a living, why they're there. And then we would make up a song, an opening song all about that person.
Oh,
And
wow.
man, yeah. So it was also very musical. It was also, completely made up. And it was so much fun. And I worked with the most incredible performers there, people I am to this day in awe of. And a lot of them are still there. It was an amazing, I was only there for 2 years, but it really was like boot camp of improv and comedy. And I just got to work that muscle so hard that the minute I left there and started doing stand up again, I mean, I could do a whole hour of crowd work where I did none of my material and just talk to people, and it would be hilarious. And so once I realized that I had those skills, then that really started expanding my stand up and my storytelling and what I felt I was capable of doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Amazing. So 2 years and then are you
And then I left. I went on tour. I
ah
started booking myself in clubs, and for about, I'd say 5 years, I didn't even have a home, a residence, an apartment. I lived
wow.
in my car. When I had days off between shows, we'd go stay in a hotel, in wherever we were. I spent I was touring a lot in the Midwest. I had gotten a college agent and I was playing at a lot of colleges. And so, I would have probably 4 shows a week and then we'd have these 3 days off. And so we would find some fun resort. I was traveling with my dog and my wife at the time, and we would stay in all kinds of fun resorts that let us have the dog and just like lay by the pool for a couple of days, or just we'd go to Charleston because the food was so good there, or we would just go hang out. And I spent a lot of time in Cuyahoga Falls. I don't know. There was a hotel there that had dogs and like a dog park and let you have the dog in the room and everything. And it was like a resort and a spa. So we'd go get like facials and massages and the dog would be running in the park. And it was just this lovely little hotel in the middle of Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. But because we were in Ohio so much, it was easy for us to get there. It was only a couple of hours drive from wherever we were. And then we'd get back on the road and start gigging again. And so I was a road comic. I mean, just hardcore on the road for about 5 years. And when we finally did get an apartment, a bunch of my friends from Orlando had all moved to Los Angeles to, try to make their big mark in the business.
Yeah.
And they had all moved into the same apartment complex.
Ah,
And when an apartment became open in that complex, And my friend called me and was like, "You got to get here. There's an apartment available." And so that's what we did. We left the road and went and got this apartment in Los Angeles. And I was living because I thought I could never live in Los Angeles. I would feel so isolated. I don't know anybody there. And now I'm moving into a building where I know everybody. It was like our own little Melrose place. There was a pool in the middle. We all lived around it. I was Heather Locklear. It was beautiful. And so I was there, and that's how I ended up getting an agent in Los Angeles and sort of starting all of the TV stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you
yeah,
remember
but it
your first
was
like official acting role?
I do. I was in a movie called Cool Dog,
Okay.
which I got cast while I was in Los Angeles, but the movie filmed in Shreveport, Louisiana. So I was
Oh,
like, I had to move to LA to get cast in something in Louisiana. But I played the villain in that movie, a very Cruella DeVille meets the Gogans from Pete's Dragon sort of a role. And I was the villain in the movie, and it was so much fun to make. And I worked on that movie for probably 4 or 5 weeks in Shreveport, and it was incredible and super fun. And I think it probably went straight to DVD. I don't even know if you can find this movie anymore. But I also, because there was so much downtime, which I didn't know about making movies and stuff. To me, you're working all the time. And no, no, no. You sit in a trailer for a really long time, and then you work for maybe 2 or 3 hours of the day, but you're there for 10 or 12 hours of the day. And so I was a little bit bored, and I had bought all of these fun little gadgets at a guitar center, like a looping pedal and one of those little harmonizing machines. And
yeah.
I wrote a rap about the movie, about the whole story, and then they put it in the ending credits of the movie.
Oh
I
my
made
God.
more money selling the song that I wrote between takes than I made making the movie.
Oh
And
my
so
goodness.
that got me really interested in doing lots of the funny music and the songs and everything. And so yeah, that was a great part. It was a great cast of people, and I was really lucky to do that. That was a great experience.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And it's funny that you said you then started, but going back to Orlando, it sounds like that's what you were doing all along, is coming up with music. It was just,
It is.
yeah.
It is. The songs that we did in the show were sort of formulaic, right? There was a tune we knew we were going to occasionally would not occasionally, quite often we would ask the audience like for a style of music and a line to start
Mhm.
with, and then we would just make up a song. And I loved doing that. It was so
Yeah.
silly and so fun. And it was something my sister and I always would write parodies to songs that already existed.
Huh.
So that was already sort of in me and stuff. And so I was very happy that I got to sort of take those skills and move them into this other genre of creation. So
Yeah. Yeah. So that experience was not a one-off then. You did go channel a little bit more into the music and comedy, like meld.
yes, yes. When I first started doing stand up, uh, when I was about 17, I had gotten a guitar for Christmas, and I couldn't play the guitar, but I would wear it on stage because I would tape my jokes to the top of it so that I could see my set list. But I never played the guitar. And I had a joke about it. I would say, and this is probably the first joke I ever wrote myself, but it was I wear this guitar. I don't actually play it. I just wear it because it's very slimming. I'm actually big enough to wear a cello, but they don't make straps for those. And so that was my big joke. And I literally never played the guitar. And finally, Jimmy Dory, who's a fantastic comedian out of Chicago,
Mhm.
came up to me and he goes, "You got to lose this guitar. If you're not going to play the guitar, you got to get rid of the guitar." I'm like, "But my jokes are written on it." He's like, "Yeah, write them on your hand. Put them on a piece of paper in front of you that you can see on the floor. But you cannot wear a guitar and never play the guitar. It's bizarre." And I was like, "All right, fair enough." And so but it was like my blankie, right? I was like Linus with my
Yeah.
little blankie. It was like my safety. And when I started performing without the guitar on, wow, I was like, "Oh, I can move around. I can do all kind, I can act
Oh.
out things." And it was very freeing, but I was very scared to do it.
Mhm, mhm. How did you find performing stand up in LA.
Well, by the time I got to LA, I knew what I was doing. So
Yeah.
it wasn't terribly scary. And what I loved about LA clubs was even at open mics or showcases, there was a huge crowd. Like,
Mm.
yeah, when I first got there, I started playing at the Ice House,
Okay.
and that place was that room hums. I mean, when people start going and laugh, that room is like vibrating with electric laughter. It is so good.
Yeah.
And so I started doing a lot of shows there, and the booker there really liked me and got me in there a lot. I mean, I was probably doing weekly shows at the Ice House when I first moved there for the first couple of years.
Hmm.
And I had there was a network called Comedy Time. I don't know if it still exists, but they would come and tape your set. Now, this was before there was all this. There was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no, social media of any sort. And
Hmm.
so they were recording your set, and then people could go watch the tape on their little website, on the Comedy Time website.
Oh,
And
wow.
I mean, that was huge. I probably had 3 different sets that were running on that quote network, right? So to me, I had made it. Oh my God,
Yeah.
right? And then I booked a Showtime show. It was called, oh, what was it called? God, I love that I've done so much. I can't
Yeah.
remember what this was called, but
Right.
it was it was a special on Showtime, and it was several lady comedians, and we all did a set on this show, and I feel like there was a bunch of different episodes, and mine was first, and so I had this comedy special in my it was 20 minutes. It wasn't a special,
Yeah.
but to me it was.
Yeah.
And we taped it at the Broad Theater in Santa Monica. Andrea Meyerson produced it, and that was my first. I was on TV. I was on Showtime, and man, to get to tell people I'm on Showtime, right? Like,
Yeah.
woo, I had made it as far as I was concerned, even though clearly not. But in my head, I was so excited about it, and it was it just once I saw that this was going to go and had legs, and I was really going to be able to do this and do it in on the level I wanted to do it. I didn't just want to be a touring road comic. I wanted to be on TV. And so I had grown up watching TV. TV was my babysitter. I mean, I sat 2 inches from that TV all the time, every day, all day if I could. I remember one time when I was probably 10 or 11 years old, the electricity went out, and that was it. There was no electricity. Nobody had a phone to watch anything on. That was it. There was no TV while the electricity was off. And I remember thinking, oh my God, how did people do this? Pioneers and people before there was TV, like, what did you do all day? It never occurred to me to like go outside and play or read a book or whatever. The TV was off and my life was over. And so, I've just always been a TV person. And so to have seen myself get on TV and to know that I did that was just so
Mhm.
exciting to me that I had to keep doing it. And it was very motivating for me
Yeah.
to see that. So
And since you did the Cool Dog movie and then things were taking off with your stand up, was it easy for you to keep like pursuing both? Or did you ever feel at any point that I need to put more eggs in the stand up basket or than other eggs in the acting, or did it just all happen
I
together?
I I did whatever I did. I never had a real job. So I never waited tables a day in my life. I had some jobs in college to retail jobs and stuff.
Mhm.
I worked at Lane Bryant, which I liked to call Lane Giant. And I was the person who measured ladies for bras. I was like, wait a minute, you're gonna pay me to measure women's boobs? And they were like, yes. I was like, I'm sold, I'm in, thank you. And so it was very fun. It was easy, but I wanted to make my living doing stand up and acting. And so because of that, I had to hustle. I had a side hustle. I would make little homemade CDs on my laptop, that I would sell for $5 or $10 at the show. So even if you had a like, oh, we have this open mic, we're going to give you a 10 or 15 minute slot. Great. But there's no pay, or we only have $25 for you. I didn't care because I knew I was going to sell CDs at the show.
Yeah.
And I remember I had moved to San Francisco right after Orlando, uh, before I got to uh, before I got to LA. I had spent about 6 months in San Francisco doing the San Francisco comedy competition, and then sort of doing all of the open mics and things there. And I remember we had a show in Emeryville, which was, I lived in San Francisco proper, so it was, Emeryville was far, and I only had enough gas to get me to the show. And if I didn't sell some CDs at the show, I didn't know how I was gonna get home. So that's very motivating when you've
Yeah.
got to make the money. And we got to that show, and the show was packed, and I sold 20 CDs. That was $200. And man, you'd have thought I won the flipping lottery. I was like, woohoo, man, that we went to the 7-Eleven and got big bite hot dogs and some nachos and a whole bunch of Diet Cokes. And we like went home, like we scored. Like it was, and it felt so magical, and it felt so good to know that I had nothing when I got to this show. And because I hustled and was funny and sold my little CDs, and yeah, I would guilt people. I'd be like, come on, you're gonna knock food out of my mouth. $10. You got $10. Buy a CD, help me out. I had a whole spiel about it. And that was right when the hurricanes had just happened. The Katrina and Hurricane Rita both. So everything in Louisiana had gotten washed out, and I played it up. I was like, look, at 100% of the proceeds from these CDs goes to hurricane relief. And by hurricane relief, I mean replacing my shit that got wet. So people were super cool about it, and everybody was very supportive. And I was able to make a living doing these shows, and just selling my CDs out of the back of my car, and making it work. So I was lucky. I was very, very lucky, and very, very motivated, to I had to make money. So
Yeah.
I did.
I keep trying to poke at something, but it's not happening. Like your positivity is like really infectious, and it seems like nothing derails you from like here's my mission. I'm excited to do this. This is what I love. And it just doesn't seem like anything detracts from that. That's amazing. Because
Well,
it's
thank you. But it's just that there's, to me, I get to do what I love. I love doing this. I love making people laugh. I love getting to create things and be silly,
yeah.
and write funny songs, and get my stuff out there to people. And so, there been hard times? Of course. Have there been things I would change? Yes. Or do I have regrets about saying yes and or no to things? Of course. But to me, there's no real point in giving that energy or space, because that's not what I want to focus on. I want to, I want my own sitcom. I want to star in things. I want to really have, I want my podcast to take off. I want to have I want to tape more comedy specials. I love performing in this big Cirque du Soleil show where I'm in front of, these shows are sold out. I'm in Vegas in a Cirque du Soleil show doing stand-up comedy. Like, it's insane to me. There's a girl who hangs from her hair, swinging all over this arena, and then I pop up, and I'm like, da like it's very bizarre to me, the sort of twists and turns and things that I get to do. But because I love what I do, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel tedious. I don't feel even that, there are times in this business where it's easy to be like, should I even be doing this? I don't feel like I really have those moments. I have no other skills. I love doing this. I would do it, I do it in all situations. Like, I just am constantly trying to make people laugh, trying to bring lightness and positive, vibes to things. And so because that's, the way I can't, when I get bogged into the other, like that pandemic was really hard on me. I'm a people person. And
Yeah.
once it became like, oh, now you get to live in your apartment for 2 years with a dog and no one paying attention to you. That was hard for me, but I found a way. I got online. I started doing online shows. I started connecting people with people through video, through Zoom, through all of these things. And that is what makes me happy. It's what has always made me happy. And so if my if I can make myself happy and that makes other people happy, perfect. It all just falls into line. But I'm not a Muppet or anything. Certainly I have moments of like, oh, this sucks. This is awful. This is
Yeah.
hard. This
Yeah.
is, especially being a woman in this business, so often I'm like, really? You're going to put up a lineup that's six white guys and I can't get onto it? Like it's annoying. It's hard. It's frustrating, but you can't get bogged down in that, because if you let that be what's playing in your head, it's going to affect your work. It's going to affect how you are on stage. And I never liked mean comedy. That's, what I mean? That's not the kind of comedy I respond to.
Yeah.
I take nothing away from those comedians. I have certainly laughed at things they've said, but I don't enjoy watching that sort of mean, and I love Don Rickles. I think he's amazing, but that style of comedy, right, where you're just kind
Yeah.
of mean to
Yeah.
everyone,
Right.
just doesn't appeal to me in particular. And so that's never how I wanted to be. And so you have to work hard to not be jaded, by this whole business and the system. And I'm sure it's also just that I don't know a lot. I don't I don't delve too deep into things. I'm not trying to figure out why somebody didn't like me or what that answer was. I just like
Yeah.
move on. There are people that I don't like for no reason, right? Like if I never saw Bridget Fonda again in anything, I'd be just fine. Why? Bridget Fonda never did anything to me. She's a perfectly fine, talented human. She just ain't for me. So I get it. I'm just not for everybody. And once you realize that, once you get that, just not everybody's going to like you. And that's okay. I mean,
Mhm.
there are websites dedicated to hating Mother Teresa. Like, if you can't like Mother Teresa, what the? Of course, people hate me. Of course, there are people that don't enjoy me, or that what for whatever reason,
Yeah.
and you just have to weed that out and
Yeah.
focus on the people that do enjoy what you're doing, and the people you're. I always tell comedians when they ask me like, how do I get what you have, or how do I get where you are, or whatever that is, the answer is to first really grab the people that are your niche market. Like if you're a gay comedian, go after that gay audience. If you are, a female comedian, go after your female, whatever that is, whatever your core uh, fans, whatever. If you're a Southern comedian, go after those Southern people, go after your local, and then everything else will ripple out.
Yeah.
That you have to go after who you think your people are first. You can't try to appeal to everybody at first. That's never going to work.
Mhm.
So, I was lucky to do that very quickly. I'm lucky to have a hometown that is so very supportive and encouraging of me and always shows up to my shows, which has, I mean, that's really what has saved me through everything. I have always known if I need money, if I can't make things work or whatever, go back to Lake Charles. If I go back to Lake Charles, Louisiana, I know I can put 200 people in a room on a week's notice, make the money I need to make, to then go back out on the road and try to get what I want to get on a national level. So I'm very lucky to have the support of local people and friends and family in the place where I grew up. And, it's really been, I mean, shout out to Lake Charles. God love every person there. I mean, I have people that have been to every show I've ever done there.
That's
And
amazing.
it's like, wow, just it blows my mind. And those people are, I've had people from my hometown that took special trips. Oh, we're coming to Vegas if you're there. I'm here for 6 weeks. Oh, we're planning a trip. I had a girl last
Oh,
night, she goes, we went to high school together. I was like, we did. And then I looked at her and I was like, oh my god, we did. Like, you don't recognize people as adults from when they were teenagers, but it's amazing to me the
yeah.
kind of support I've had from that town and from my my local people,
Mhm.
and it's made all the difference. It is literally the reason I was able to keep going back and forth from Los Angeles, from Chicago, from wherever I was, and to keep this machine rolling and keep my bills paid. And look,
Yeah, yeah,
anybody who's ever been an artist knows you struggle. I mean, it's I'm lucky to have parents who have supported me through things, like, hey man, I don't have gigs until the end of the month, and these bills are due at the beginning of the month. And my mom and dad would be like, "No, we got you. Don't worry." And I'm very lucky to have that. I know not everyone has
yeah,
that,
yeah,
but to be able to have that kind of support and to know that I can create something out of nothing, wherever I go, it has been very helpful and has made all the difference in the level of success I've been able to achieve.
yeah, yeah. Um, I I am so intrigued by this Cirque du Soleil gig that you have because anybody that has seen Cirque du Soleil, and I've seen probably, a small handful, there's always a comedic element to any of those shows. And I'm wondering, are you the first like official stand-up that has been like part of a show?
Well, this particular show, I haven't seen them all, but the shows I have seen, while there have been comedic elements, there was
Mhm.
not a stand-up comedian doing their act.
Yeah.
This show, Mad Apple, started a couple of years ago and had Brad Williams was their resident comedian the first year. I love him. God, what a fantastically funny person and a kind, amazing human being. Like, I love him on and off stage,
Yep.
and also very positive, very, very
Yes,
upbeat,
yes.
very a good guy. And he did it for the first year, I think. And now they rotate comedians. We're here for I've done I did about 6 weeks in January, February. I'm doing 6 weeks now. And then, in 2025, I'll be back doing more dates. So it's been very exciting to do that. But this show is different than other Cirque du Soleil shows in that there's not a storyline. The premise of the show is that it's a variety show on the streets of New York. So it's
Mhm.
a lot of different acts, but they're not necessarily strung together as being connected. And
Okay.
so there's it's very the I mean the spectacle of it is incredible. There are the cast, you could not have a more diverse cast. It is just incredible to work with, and they're incredible people, so talented. And for me I get to come up out of the floor. Like, I'm
Oh,
on a right. They don't have that at the Chuckle Hut in Iowa City. You just walk up. This is amazing. So I come up out of the floor with smoke and fanfare and all of these things. And so
amazing.
it's just an amazing opportunity, and to get to do, and it's just a 15-minute set, and then I do a little audience gig in the middle of a couple of acts. I'm like the rodeo clown that distracts everybody while they're setting up the wheel of death on the stage, that these guys come out and do it. And it's also phenomenal, and I get to meet people from all over, and it's sold out every night. It's a packed house in Vegas. It's just so exciting to be part of, and I'm quite lucky, quite lucky.
Yeah. This time together has flown by, but there's a couple of things that I know I absolutely need to make sure we talk about. One is the special, your latest special, and the other is you're going on tour. I assume after the your current gig with Mad Apple wraps up, you're going to be
Yes.
hitting the road. So your pick, whichever order you want to talk about them.
So I have a special. It's called No Flies on Me. You can watch it for free on YouTube or on my website, jenkober.com. There's just a little button right there. You click and you can watch the whole thing. It was super fun. I filmed it at Brad Garrett's club at the MGM Grand here in Las Vegas. Brad Garrett has always been a huge supporter and fan of mine, and is amazing to work with as well. He produced the whole special. I'm going to be back at his club March 30th through April 6th, if you
Okay.
happen to be in Vegas then. And I'm very happy with how it came out. It was super fun. Brad was going to launch a platform, like a dry bar sort of platform, and have different comedians on it. And I think the tech side of it sort of fell through, and he had already filmed four comedians. He picked four of us to do first. And when it fell through that the platform wasn't going to happen, he just gave us our specials
Oh,
to do
wow.
with what we liked. Yeah, which is just unheard of and
Yeah.
incredibly kind, and didn't charge us a penny, even though I know he paid for the full, production of this whole thing.
Yeah.
And my manager got it in with 800-pound Gorilla Media, and they distributed it, and it has been just taken off really, really well. It's
Yeah.
gotten a lot of traction. It's been an amazing amount of positive feedback on this special, and has helped me book more gigs. And so that has led me, I had to come up with a tour. So my tour is called the One Hick Wonder Tour. And that starts in Loveland, Colorado in November, on November 8th. I am there in Loveland, and it'll continue on into 2025, and dates are getting added all the time. I'm going to be in the Austin area, in New Braunfels, Texas in March, doing the show there. And I think at that show, we're doing like a last comic standing kind of a competition with like local comedians
Oh,
that want to
wow.
try to be funny. Yeah. So everybody's going to get 3 minutes, and we're going to have the audience vote and stuff. It's fun. I love getting community involved. I love making sure that people are having a good time and feeling like they're part of it, because that's what you remember. You don't necessarily remember what a comedian says, but you remember how they made you
How you
feel,
feel.
and
Yeah.
how yeah. And I mean, that's how I know somebody was good. When I can laugh, I don't even remember what they said. I just remember my stomach hurt from laughing so hard. And that's, the effect I want to have on people. So
Yeah.
all of those things, the special, the tour, all of the information about everything, you can find at jenkober.com. There's videos to that's the great thing about today and technology, is you can vet me and make sure I'm worth putting on real pants and leaving your house for. And I promise I am. I promise I am. But
Yeah.
it's nice that people can make sure, before you had to just like buy a ticket and hope for the best. And now you can really make sure. And the material that's in my special is not the material that I'm touring with. So you can watch the special and laugh at it, and then know you're going to see new, funnier stuff when you see me in person, because I filmed that a year and a half ago
Okay.
yeah, it was a year ago in April. So it really was um and I've filmed another special since then. I filmed a special
Oh,
in November that's coming out in January, and then I'm filming another special in February to sort of
oh
come
my
back
God.
after that. So
Yeah.
it's constant material creation and
Yeah.
constant trying it out, and you're throwing spaghetti at the wall all of the time. And I did a residency this summer, both in Lake Charles, where I'm from. I was doing a weekly show there, and a weekly show in Santa Monica at a theater there, at the Crow Comedy Club. Shout out to Nicole Blaine and the amazing theater she has created there. And so I was doing a Wednesday show in Lake Charles and a Monday show in Santa Monica. And they were selling out, both of them. So I couldn't miss. So I'm literally flying back and forth every Tuesday. I'm on a plane going somewhere, and
Wow.
back and forth and back and forth. And it paid off. My new hour is just hilariously funny. It's very strong. It's very polished. And I wouldn't have gotten to do that if I didn't have all these, great connections in these places that let me, get up and do a show,
Yeah.
and see what worked. When I was in Santa Monica, I did a different hour every week. So I didn't repeat any of the same jokes, because I was trying to churn out so much new material. And then the things that worked, I would then go to Lake Charles and do, and be putting it all together. And so it was a very fun process, but it was also, a lot of work. And I'm glad I did the work, because I'm very happy with what I have.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So exciting. You can't help but be excited talking to
Yeah,
you.
it's going to be really fun. I'm excited for it to get out there and get seen, and all
Yeah.
the things. So
Yeah.
Netflix, here we come.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Let's wrap up with my final closing question.
All
One word
right.
to describe your future.
Bright.
Yeah, I would not have expected anything like somber, depressed.
Dark, darkness. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm a happy little cherub. I mean, I just always have been.
yeah, yeah,
There's not a lot of, look, I can be mean and acerbic and jaded as well. It just, I just try not to stay in that space for very long. It
yeah,
doesn't serve me. So
yeah, yeah. I think that is a wise choice that you made.
thank you.
Okay. Well, that is a wrap on Comedy Wham presents Jen Kober. Jen, remind us where we can find you on social media and do another plug for those upcoming shows and projects.
Yes, No Flies on Me. My special that is out now is available on jenkober.com. If you go to jenkober.com, you can also connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. I'm not on Snapchat because I don't give a shit what you look like as a deer. But everything else, I am on TikToks, all of those things. You can listen to my podcast, Bitchin' Over Biscuits, where we tackle a different genre of podcast every week and have a surprise celebrity guest who we talk to and laugh with about that topic while we eat biscuits. It's very fun. I also have a video series called In the Closet with Jen Kober, where I eat sweets in a closet. It's very, very soothing. Any of my big lady friends, I highly recommend it. And a tour schedule, my One Hick Wonder tour starting in November on November 8th in Loveland, Colorado. So you can check out all of those things, buy tickets, get more information, and all of those things at jenkober.com. Kober is my last name. It's like sober, but with a K. Ta-da!
Amazing. We hope you've enjoyed learning about how Jen got to be the comedic genius that you heard today just as much as I have. This has been Comedy Wham presents Jen Kober. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you so much, Jen.
Of course. Thank you.